Hi folks, welcome back. Thank you for watching. Please do hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It really does help when you do that. So today folks, I wanted to answer a question that I've been asked way more than I ever thought I would be doing this channel, which is, can you tell us how you make your videos? So what I wanted to do today is take you through a normal working day for me making videos for this YouTube channel. And it's a little bit weird doing this, firstly because every single video is completely different. So there is no sort of set working pattern that I do for every video, but there are some sort of general trends. But also I've recently changed pretty much everything about how I do these videos, and I'm still kind of getting to grips and ironing out all the little bugs in the workflow. So I'm going to do my best today to talk you through an average day for me making videos. So first and foremost then, the process generally begins the night before shooting. So last night, for example, I thought, which video am I going to make today? And the example I'm going to use for this video is demoing this pedal here, the Effectrode Fire Bottle, which is a really lovely tube boost pedal that just sounds absolutely amazing. So last night, the first thing I did was I read the manual for the Fire Bottle, because on the surface of it is a fairly straightforward pedal, boost and tone, and I know it's got a tube in it, so there's only two knobs, it's quite easy. But it has this Vary Z switch on the top here, which is basically like an input impedance selector. And reading the manual, it's designed to work with strats and tellies. So straight away then, that dictates which guitar I was going to be using today. So last night I got my Strat and I put a brand new fresh set of strings on it. Now I like to do that the night before because it gives it 12 hours for them to stretch in and really settle, so the guitar isn't constantly going out of tune when I actually start filming. So last night I read the manual and I got new strings on the guitar and cleaned it up and checked the intonation, because I always check the intonation every time I put a new set of strings on any guitar, just in case things have moved or there's tolerance in the set of strings or whatever. I like them to be as in tune as they possibly can be. So that was last night. This morning then, what happens? Well, I get up and have my breakfast and all that sort of stuff. And as many of you will know, and it's very obvious from watching this channel, this is my actual bedroom. In an ideal world, I would be able to build myself a proper recording studio and a sort of video studio. I'm just making the most of pretty much the only space I've got to do these videos. So it's not ideal working in my very, very small bedroom, but it's what I've got, it's what I work with. So this is what the room looks like first thing in the morning. I've got the amps on one side of the room and my desk on the other, which is obviously where all the sort of Pro Tools side of things happens. So I get set up first and foremost. So I would either choose a guitar, which I've already done, and then I start setting up the mics on the amps and choosing which amps to use. Now I would say for 75% of my videos, especially for the last year or so, I use my two Dr. Zs, the Z-Rec and the DB4. They pair together really, really nicely. The Z-Rec has a really detailed, defined, chimey high end, and the DB4 has a really thick low end. So I tend to pair amps, thinking of it a little bit like a stereo. You don't have just one speaker in your home stereo system, right? You have tweeters, mid-range speakers, and subwoofers. So the subwoofers take care of the low end, the tweeters take care of the high end, and that's kind of how I pair amps. I'll generally have one much brighter amp and one much darker amp, because it gives a more kind of full frequency sound overall. So I would generally use the two Dr. Zs, they pair together beautifully. But today I'm going to use the DB4 and my Hughes and Kettner. Now there's two reasons for this. Firstly, because I'm using a Strat, and the Hughes and Kettner is much more martially. Strats typically sound really, really good into Marshall amps, especially when they're pushed, which we're going to be doing today with the Fire Bottle. But also because I've just been sent a Fane Alnico A60 speaker, which is in the Hughes and Kettner, and I'm trying to break it in as much as I can before shooting the standalone demo of that speaker. So I'm using the Hughes and Kettner as much as I possibly can at the moment. So I'm going to use the Hughesy and the DB4 today. Now, when it comes to mics, I generally use 3 close mics and 1 room mic when it comes to miking up the amps. And again, it goes back to that kind of home stereo idea. I will use a condenser mic on the brightest of the 2 amps to get the really detailed high end. I use an old 1970s Sennheiser MD441, which is pretty similar to a SM57, but it's a bit more honky in the mid-range rather than fizzy, which I generally like, because I'm using it as my mid-range microphone. I like that kind of honkiness. And then I use an SE Rupert Neve RNR1 ribbon mic on the dark amp, so that typically sits on the DB4. Because then we've got a ribbon mic picking up the thumpy low end, a dynamic mic picking up the kind of honky mids, and a condenser mic picking up the detailed high end. And I'll explain how I mix the mics later on. Now, I also always run a room mic because only one of these amps has reverb on it, and I generally like a little bit of ambience. Close mics on their own does sound a little bit dead, especially when it's an isolated guitar part. So I run a room mic, and that really adds to the realism of the recorded sound. Now, ultimately, my goal when making these videos is to get the sound coming out of your speakers as close as possible to what I'm hearing in the room. And those three mics set at unity gain on their respective amps generally does just that. So as I said, I'll explain how I mix the audio later on, but those three mics give me everything I need, and the room mic gives me a little bit of kind of three-dimensionalness that makes it just sound a little bit more real and more like what I'm hearing. So I've got the guitar, I've got the mic set up, and when it comes to cameras then, this is what's really changed recently. So for the longest time I had my trusty GoPro, I think it's a Hero 6 Black Edition or something, and that's for the last couple of years what you've been seeing as the main camera shot. Now, what's recently changed is I've gone to using a Sony ZV-1 for the main camera shot, because when it comes to doing these videos, the main thing, the main attitude I go into any video with is, how can I make today's video better than what I did yesterday? So it's a constant quest for improvement, and any little thing, be it audio, video, editing on the computer, how I play, which amps I use, how I set the amps, everything. How can I make what I do today that tiny bit better than yesterday? Ironing out bugs, just refining what I do, doing it a little bit quicker hopefully, but just giving you guys the highest quality video I possibly can. So I've moved to using the ZV-1 because it is just a much better picture quality. The focus is much better, it's much sharper, it kind of locks onto my face a bit more, which unluckily for you guys gives you a much more sort of 4K view of my face, which isn't ideal, but anyway. So it just makes the videos look a lot more professional. And the GoPro is now my pedal camera. So I have the pedal sat on top of the Hughes and Kettler with the GoPro over it on one of those like monkey tripod things, so I can, you know, have it on split levels of amps and really position it exactly where I want. And basically the view from the camera of what you're seeing, this is what I'm looking at when I'm talking to the camera. So I've got the pedal on my left with the GoPro over it. I've got two film lights, which for the Effectrode video I've just shot were actually set a little bit too bright. So you've got a bit of an annoying reflection coming off the guitar, but as I said, it's all a learning process. And I've got the amps next to me with the microphones on it and a room mic in the corner. So you are looking now at exactly what I am seeing when I'm talking to the camera. So I check the levels in Pro Tools, I set the preamps, so I will today absolutely dime the Fire Bottle so that it's at its loudest, and then set the mic levels accordingly so I'm not overloading anything when I turn it up. And I always check the phase of the three close mics. Now for me, it's not enough for it to be pretty much in phase, like, you know, very obviously in phase. I need those mics to be lined up to the sample. I look for the zero crossing points, check they all match up, look for the peaks, check they all match up. So I want those mics to be perfectly in phase with each other, which is quite difficult when using three mics on two different amps, but it's really important. The room mic will never be in perfect phase with the closed mics because you've got all the reflections from the room and none of the direct sound, but you want it to be relatively in phase. So flip the phase and see when it's at its thickest. That's when it's in phase. So once the audio's all there and the cameras are set up and the lights are on, I go ahead and shoot the video. So I don't really rehearse what I do in these videos. I just kind of hit the pedal and tweak the knobs with the knowledge from what I've read in the manuals and my experience of playing the pedal, of course. And I just play generally for around about 10 minutes, usually, just going through as many different sounds as I can using the guitar. So today I've been playing around with the tone, that vary Z switch and the boost, using the guitar to clean it up because that's really important when demoing a pedal. And I just do my best possible job at going through as many different sounds with different pickup selections and all of that sort of stuff. So hopefully I can show off exactly what the product is about that I'm demoing. Now, as I said, it's completely different depending on what it is I'm demoing. So today it's a pedal, which is one of the easiest things to do. The other week I demoed 7 different tone capacitors in a Les Paul. So that was much more tricky because between each take I had to go outside, solder a new capacitor in, let it cool down so the temperature didn't affect anything, come back in, shoot the next bit of footage and repeat that 7 times, and it was all a little bit more tricky. But, you know, for a pedal it's generally quite easy. So there's no set workflow for anything, it's just, you know, I try and let things flow as much as possible. Now, when it comes to what I play, as I said, I don't rehearse, you know, what I play to the pedal, I just let the sound kind of dictate what comes to mind. Now, it's become a lot more difficult in the last year or so for people who do demos on YouTube, because record labels have a really nasty habit of, if you play like 10 seconds of a riff from like a classic song, they will come in and just swoop away all of your advertising revenue. No questions asked, they'll just take it and put a copyright strike against you. So nowadays, you know, people like me have had to become more inventive of using non-copyrighted riffs, or at least our own riffs. So generally what you've been hearing for the last 6 months or so have been my own riff ideas, songs I've recorded in the past and things like that, and also kind of references of classic songs. So I've had a few comments recently of someone like saying, "You're not playing the Whole Lot of Love riff right." It's like, yeah, deliberately so I don't get a copyright strike. So, you know, I kind of reference little bits so you kind of know what I'm trying to say without playing the copyrighted riff. So the playing goes on for about 10 minutes, and at the end of it I essentially have 2 bits of footage, usually when it comes to a pedal demo at least. I've got the main camera shot and the pedal shot. So after that it all goes into the computer, and then it's very much the editing process. So when it comes to the audio side of things, as I said, I try to give you the most accurate representation of what I was hearing in the room. And generally speaking, the 3 close mics and the room mic, all running at sort of equal gain and equal volume, does just that. Now, if there is anything that's jumping out at me, I almost never use plugins to fix anything. It's generally done by tweaking the mic balance, if anything. So if, for example, when I'm listening back to the audio, the guitar sounds a little bit bright compared to what I was hearing in the room, I'll take the condenser mic down, which gets rid of some of those shrill frequencies. If it's sounding a bit thin, I might boost the ribbon mic, only by like a dB or 2 at most, just to kind of balance it out. But I never use plugins or anything like that to do it. I just use the 3 mics balanced out. And then the room mic comes in just to the point where you start to be able to audibly hear it. It just adds that kind of realism to it. So what you guys hear is as close as I'm able to get to what I've been hearing sitting right here in front of the amps. Now, then I bounce the audio down. I've got the voiceover like at the start of the video, so I add a little bit of compression to that just to smooth it out. And then I put the completely unedited, sort of balanced out audio after that and bounce it down as a WAV file. I do also have a limiter running over the whole thing. Now, this is 100% there as a bit of a fail-safe. What I do is I set the limiter at -1 dB, and then when I'm getting the levels of the audio, I try to have that peaking at most at -1.5 dB. So in theory, the limiter is just there, it's not doing anything at all, but just in case I miss something and the peak level goes up slightly, I would much rather for that split second it be just rounded off by a limiter than clip the audio and sound really nasty in the edit. So the limiter is there purely as a fail-safe, it's not doing anything at all, but just in case it does catch anything that slips through the net when I'm setting the levels. I import the footage into Final Cut Pro, which is the movie editing software I use. And the most important thing that importing it in does is it creates what we call proxy media, which is a really low-res version of the footage, which you use to edit with. So it uses almost no CPU power to play it through, unlike the top quality footage. So you can kind of edit using the really low quality stuff, and at the end just flip it back into top quality. You don't have to worry about trying to play all the edits in real time. It just does it for you and compiles the footage. Now, the most important thing when doing a pedal demo is to get the GoPro shot in the corner as a sort of masked off video. So most of the time it looks like a static photograph, but you can see my hand go in and move the settings of the pedal, so you can see exactly what is going on. Now, with this Effectrode, it's actually pretty easy because it's a square. The other day I did a Thorpe effects pedal with that sort of really weird shaped enclosure that took about 3/4 of an hour just to do the masking on it. That was a pain, but with this you can just do a stock rectangle mask and drop it in the left hand corner and sync all the audio up so that it happens in real time. It's synced up to the proper high-res mic recordings. And then at the end of it, it's just any other little bits that are important for that particular video. So generally speaking, for a pedal, I don't need to do anything. The footage speaks for itself. You can see exactly what I'm doing on the pedal. For this, I did put a graphic on the screen of the very Z position because it's kind of hard to see that. So I put that on screen. I went through and dropped the relevant text in at the relevant point, because ultimately my job is to show you exactly what the pedal is set like and exactly how that sounds into an amp setup. That's what I do. I just try to show the product off to the best of its ability. And you do have to be kind of careful with that, because you don't want to make a product sound bad simply by using it in the wrong application. So for example, this is designed for use with Strats and Tellys. So I wasn't going to use a 335 into this, because then the Very Z switch would be so muffled it wouldn't really work properly and make it sound bad, even though that's not what it was designed for. So you need to be a little bit careful when demoing products to use them properly and how they're intended. And I have fallen foul of this before. I've demoed something that, I get 10,000 comments coming in telling me I'm an idiot. It's all a learning process. And I should also say that you guys commenting on this channel teach me so much about making videos. And a lot of the sort of more critical comments, I read every single comment that comes in on this channel. And a lot of the time when you get a negative comment coming in, the person saying it actually has a very good point. You should have demoed this pedal like this. Well, actually, I probably should have. So next time I know. It's all a learning process, and I learn a lot from you guys too. So once the footage is all edited and it's synced up, the only last thing to do is photography. So I use my more sort of photo-suited camera to take the close-up shots of the pedals that then get dropped on top of the footage, and also ultimately go and make the thumbnail of what you guys see when you click on the link on YouTube. Compile the footage, watch it through, and just check that everything is looking as it should. I try my hardest not to let anything go with any mistakes in it. So if I've made a spelling mistake, I'll go back and recompile the video. It's a bit of a pain, but I am a massive perfectionist. And ultimately, what I want is to upload the video to YouTube and it completely represent what I was hearing and experiencing playing the pedal or whatever the product was. I want you guys to kind of really feel what it was like sitting here in this room. That's my ultimate goal, to give the most honest representation possible. So that's pretty much it. Upload to YouTube, do the thumbnail, do all the text underneath, and a lot of people are always asking what pickups are in that guitar. It's always in the description box underneath. I spend a lot of time doing all the writing for that. And that's pretty much it. So generally speaking, to do a video, so today doing the Effectrode video, it was a case of starting about 9 o'clock and it was being uploaded to YouTube by about 1 in the afternoon. So it was about a sort of 4-hour job. But of course that varies as well. Doing the 7-way capacitor shootout the other week was an absolute nightmare, because all the audio had to be sort of edited together, labelled so I knew exactly which capacitor was which piece of audio, stitched together with crossfade so it doesn't glitch. Then all of that had to be synced up to the relevant footage, graphics put on screen to show you guys what was happening. That edit took about 8 hours to do. It was an absolutely horrible video to do that one. But generally speaking, it's about a sort of 3-4 hour job, assuming everything goes smoothly. But again, if I get to the end and one of the cameras has cut out halfway through or is out of focus, I'll go back and shoot the video again. I don't want to put out sub-quality content to you guys. I want this channel to look as professional as it possibly can. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's my process. You know, there was a thread on the Gear page a couple of weeks ago about whether YouTube demo people should be allowed to monetize their content. And, you know, I went in and said, you know, very rightly, I think, demo videos don't come from nowhere. They take a lot of work and they also take a lot of investment. So, you know, I've had to invest in cameras, a recording setup, microphones, amplifiers. I don't usually get sent things to demo from people. I have to buy the pedals myself. So there's a lot of investment that goes into this channel. And, you know, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be monetized personally. But there is a lot of work that goes into this. And as I said, it's all a big learning curve. I'm always trying to do a better job. I'm always trying to improve every little thing about what I do. Going to the new camera was purely to improve the focus and the video quality to make this channel look more professional. Using the 3 mics on 2 amps paired together is to give you the best possible sound of whatever it is I'm demoing. So it's always trying to get better. And by doing that, I think, you know, you never go backwards. You only ever go forwards. The channel only improves. And ultimately, hopefully, I give you guys videos that you will like and find interesting. That's what this channel's all about. So that's it, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you have any questions about this, drop them in the comments below. I'll be very, very happy to answer them. And if you have any more sort of Ask Perky questions, drop them below as well. And if I can make a video answering your question, of course, I will do so. So thank you ever so much, folks, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.